Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. It's March 18th, and I'm just checking out the garden, putting a few more plants in, but I've been looking at my compost here for a while. Now this is some of my bought compost, and I threw some leftover seed cells that didn't germinate right off. I got the ones I wanted, threw the rest out here. And I've got little tomatoes coming up there. Now this was some compost I was making, and I couldn't keep the temperature up hot enough. But anyway, I turned it. This was the first time I turned this pile. But I've got a whole garden going on right here. I mean to tell you, it's got different varieties of tomatoes. I don't know if I could actually tell which one, which I've got some weed and grass. I've got some more tomatoes over here. And I've got cucumbers or squash or something's coming up right here. Of course, I'm probably going to need to rotate this out, but I'm kind of watching to maybe just see what grows out of here. But the reason why I wanted to say something about this, which I'm doing my single seed challenge and going to give an update, but sometimes seeds take a while to germinate. You know, even though I have tomatoes that's really big, these little ones are just now germinating and coming out. For some reason, seeds, and especially if it's a saved one, if you didn't take and ferment them long enough or something, they might be a little harder to germinate when you save your seeds. But for whatever reason, don't get discouraged if you're doing a single seed challenge and your seed is slow to germinate, because in most cases, eventually they will. All right, we're out here in the greenhouse. Some of our tomatoes are in here. They're coming up. We've actually got strings. They're growing like crazy. And let's go down here to our single seed challenge. And it's sitting right here. And this is the first one. And what we're going to do today, we're going to do a little trim on this thing. And what we're going to do, we'll show this two ways. Now, what you want to do is you want to make sure you keep your lower limbs off. Now, I don't have as much problem with splash out here, but I don't want any of these limbs to grow and touch the ground. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim off those bottom limbs off there. It has plenty to get sunlight, and so there won't be a problem there as far as it's going to take off, and that pruning will stimulate some growth. Now, we'll want to take off suckers. Now, like I got one coming out right here, and we don't want, in the greenhouse, a lot of times I don't bother with them, but in the greenhouse, we don't want those suckers on there, so because we don't want it real bushy. So what we're going to do is, as we go, we're going to watch, and each time we have a sucker come out of there, we're just going to clip it off like that. Now, for those that aren't familiar with the sucker, now you don't ever want to cut your top out, so always wait, but right where this joint comes together here, once it puts out a limb, and it's possible this one might put a sucker out in there, but everywhere where that joint comes out, that's where that sucker's going to come off, and it'll make another plant. Now, you can leave them. A lot of people say, well, you won't produce tomatoes off it or whatever, but it will produce a bunch. But your tomatoes, when it gets real loaded up with a bunch of tomatoes, what's going to end up happening is they're going to be smaller. So and out here in the greenhouse, we've got to keep them, the plant can't be real bushy, otherwise we won't get good airflow around it. But anyway, there's where we're setting. We're setting a good 12, maybe getting close to 14 inches tall. We're well on our way. Now some of the other tomatoes, which they're different varieties, like the cherry tomatoes down here, they're already blooming. Won't be long, we'll have little tomatoes there. And I think I seen a bloom on one of these red snappers here. But now that sucker that I cut off of there, let's go back up here and look at this. This sucker right here, you can see all these little fuzzy fine hairs on here. You can stick this in a pot with some potting mix or something, some soil potting mix. Set it in there, and this will, in a very short time, it'll root out. Now last year, you can go back in my videos, I had some tomato plants. In fact, I had 35 of my late season ones that they were all grown from suckers from one variety. And I have one variety in here that my first ones died off, and I'll probably be potting up suckers because I don't have any more seeds for them. But like I say, free tomato plants, because that won't take just a short time. You can bury it all the way up to where its leaves are up there. In fact, you might even take off this bigger limb right off here to the side, and you know, keep it watered. Don't put it in direct sunlight, and won't be long, it'll be ready to go. But anyway, if you want to take this single seed challenge, Scott Head, he started up at Single Seed Challenge 2021. There's a lot of people that are other gardeners out there that are taking that challenge. And what it is, you pick you out a single seed and document the growth from the time you plant it on up to the end of its life cycle. So you'll pay real close attention to the whole cycle of that plant. So if you want to, just you'll find the hashtag for Single Seed Challenge 2021. You can click on that, and you can see a lot of the other gardeners that's taking that challenge and what plant they're growing. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you keep up with the progress, and happy gardening.